It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
I have Jay Brown here with me, and he is the founder and creator of the Evo Room, and he is a good friend of mine and fellow life hacker. And so, Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, anytime, man. So we originally connected through his Kickstarter campaign for the Evo Room. Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit real quickly about the Evo Room?
One of the challenges we're facing on this planet right now, well, many of them, economically, environmentally, and socially. And when I was looking at what can we do to help create solutions for these problems, what that question took me to was science, and that our thoughts create our reality, which science has proven. So, I'm thinking, well, how do then we create those thoughts that will allow us to create the realities that we all want? And I think most people want more love, harmony, and connection in their life. So the Evo Room spawned as an answer to how to help people with generating the thoughts that create the realities that they truly want, to understand how our emotions can be managed so that we can create the realities that we want, stop bringing in the things that we don't want. And the Evo Room is an actual experience instead of venue or place. So it can happen anywhere, and we do it in groups using entertainment, music, dance, social experiments, personal growth. Experts come in to do the trainings, and they can last anywhere from a couple hours long to a full day or a weekend. And that basically is the Evo Room.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that and the work you're doing with that. One of the things that first stood out to me in the work that Jay was doing was that creating this environment of experience. And one of you haven't heard it yet, but the intro to Recovery Squared Radio is talk about bending reality. And so it's no surprise to me that we're aligned in a few areas, and that's why I originally wanted to support the work you're doing. But it's also part of, we have a similar message, and it's just kind of maybe niched down a little bit different. But really, I love what you said, and that really we're all longing for that deep connection that we've lost either through society or our environment. But at the end of the day, that's all we really want. But we have all this, we have these layers and these masks on, and I really love what you said about, kind of getting down and connecting on new levels. So this is all really awesome, but kind of what brought you to this moment where, because typically I don't find people that want to do this sort of thing. Normally there's a reason, or that they're finding a longing or a lacking of in their life that they want to create something like this. What was your story to get to this moment?
It was pain and struggle that inspired the creation of the Evo Room. And, what I can share about the story is, back in 2013, getting a divorce, and in that same year, my little sister, Brittany, passed away. The second part of my life where I felt really down, depressed, and in a state where I even considered suicide. So during that time, saying a prayer, even though, I'm not religious by any means, I figured, how can I change my life right now? How can I turn things around? I was broke financially, broke emotionally, and looking for an answer. So, I threw a prayer out there, and then the next morning I got the hit to create Evo Room, for the public, because I was actually doing it over the last several years prior to that prayer that I put out there, with friends, and doing it privately because I was not really ready to share that this is the type of work that I like to do and I love to do, because maybe people, I'd fear of judgment from other people that, oh, he's spiritual or he's this or that, and getting a little soft because I just had come out of a realm in the world where, playing the role of a nightclub promoter, and a lot of people saw me as that party guy. So I was holding on to that image and that identity, which created the resistance around sharing the Evo Room with the public. And it was only in that moment where I was down on my knees and pretty much begging God, like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? That I was inspired, to take it into the public realm. So October 6th of 2013 was the first Evo Room. It was a day-long experience, and we had about, I think, 17, 18 people there in that range, and everyone had a wonderful time. So we decided to, and that was 2 weeks after that prayer I put out, that we had created that Evo Room, and then we did one every month since then. And that's the story of how the Evo Room was created.
Man, I love that. There's so much I can identify, and probably a lot of my listeners can identify with as well. The divorce, depression, suicide, losing loved ones. And so I really appreciate that. And, you come in full circle and kind of turning that pain into something of value that everyone can use. And, I was also very identified with, kind of the partier. I wasn't promoting it. I was more as a participant, but it was, I was very identified with that lifestyle, and it was very difficult to get out of that. And it's almost like an addiction to the lifestyle, not necessarily even the drugs and the alcohol. And it was kind of just the lifestyle of, the clubs and the parties and what's happening.
Yeah, it was actually, for me, it was an escape. Because at the time I didn't realize that my emotions were running me instead of me being able to manage my emotions. And a way for me to escape was to create these parties and just be in that space, do the drugs, drink the alcohol, as a way to run from those feelings that I was feeling, dealing with the anger, dealing with the fear, dealing with the doubt. I didn't actually know how to deal with it. And, that became my outlet. I was really good at it. So in a way, like you said, it became an addiction to running away. That's what I was addicted to, running away from my feelings. But life has its way of bringing us back. And for me, it was pain that inspired me to turn, things around.
I love that. A lot of times it's, we're in this process of recovering from our own self because, things happen to us and we get caught in this disconnection from who we really are. And the world's not always the best place to make you feel valued. And so it becomes hard to value yourself. And so we end up kind of ignoring, our true self, and we end up medicating that disconnection in many, many different ways. And it manifests in all sorts of negative ways with addictions, broken relationships, even illness and death. And so I really love what you're doing. So why don't we go into a little bit of what are some of the tools that you use through the Evo Room event or process? What sort of things happen at these kind of events?
Well, through the research that I've done and in my own experience of what does it take to actually get a person into a state of being that their thoughts are, primarily positive and brings feelings of joy. And the answer to that is connection. Connection to oneself and connection to other people. So in the Evo Room, one of the first things that we do before we even teach anything is we focus on connection. And the reason why we do that is because when we're learning, as individuals, especially the older that we become, we become resistant and less open to new information. So it actually makes the learning process more difficult. And individuals, it's harder for them to retain more information because, we have our preconceived notions, or maybe we're still, thinking about what happened yesterday, in a phone call that we had with our girlfriend or boyfriend that didn't go right, so we're not being present. So before we get into the teaching, we help people become fully present in the moment, and one of the ways to do that is through connection. So we go through activities that are designed to help people connect with the human beings that are with them in that particular Evo room. And something as easy as giving another person a hug is a connector. And it's not just, the hug itself. We found that, there's a chemical that's released called oxytocin and dopamine when we give hugs to one another. And the longer that you stay in a hug, the deeper, the more that chemical comes from within us. And so chemically and actually physically, it's a bonding agent. And that's the deeper understanding underneath a hug that we brought into the Evo room that is part of creating that connection, which then allows people to become more present. And when we're in a state of presence, then we could receive more, we're open more. And then that's where feelings, the good feelings emerge from, is when we're here, right now. We're not thinking about the bills we got to pay or thinking about the future, what could possibly go wrong in our lives. We're right where we need to be in our fullest potential, which is in the moment. So that's what we focus on inside of the Evo room. And we can do that in multiple ways. And one of the great ways to do it is by creating games that are centered and focused around team and bringing people together. So relay races, you'll find a lot of those type of experiences inside of the Evo room, because getting people together in team and having fun while they're doing that is another way to raise vibration. One of the fastest ways to accelerate an individual state of consciousness is just by having fun. And so we create a lot of games with the intention of having fun, so we can raise that individual's energy, raise their state of being, and then ultimately that brings them into more presence. And the more and more we come closer to the moment, that's where all the magic happens.
Man, I love that. That's awesome. I love the connection piece, because so often we are kind of running around in our own bubble. We're thinking about the things that we have to do, but sometimes we don't take a step back and see the connection that's right in front of us. Like yesterday, or I think it was the day before yesterday, I had a maintenance guy come over, and he's asking me a little bit about kind of the work I do. And at first I'm kind of like, I'm busy, I have work to do. Like, why is this guy talking to me? And that sort of thing. And I have other things to do, but I realize I'm like, no, I'm here to serve whoever's in front of me. And, and I ended up scheduling a coaching session with him, because I just sat there and listened and connected with him. But, part of my mind wanted to go back to the old ways of being, right? Worried about me. And what I love about this is that, and I've done some similar things, and to be honest, I want to do more. And that's why I was so intrigued with the Evo Room, was that it's kind of like you need to create a space to practice connection, because oftentimes in the real world, you want to connect with someone, but our mind gets in the way. Like, I was just at a networking event an hour ago, and this lady shared, she had this very inspiring business model and how she was able to connect. And I wanted to run up and give her a hug. Maybe I should have, but my mind, I'm thinking, she's going to think I'm a weird freak, or that I want to date her, or something like that, right? I don't know her. But in reality, I really have to take a step back and go, well, maybe that's what she needed. Who am I to know? Why don't I just love freely and let my inspiration carry me? And so I could say for me, like, I need to practice that myself, and so that's why I really love what you're doing with this.
Yeah, it's very important. What you pointed out is, very, very extremely important, which is the practice of it. Because in our culture and our society, we're not trained on how to actually connect with people. It's something that you have to just figure out on your own, right? Like in school, we are taught, math, science, English, and things that are really important. But one of the things that is most important is understanding how to connect with another human being. Because in relationships, that's where we thrive. That's where we can actually have all of our needs met and don't even need money anymore. If we understand how to leverage our relationships, we have all the abundance that we can imagine. What the Evo Room offers for people is that space to actually practice connection. because once we really understand how to connect with others, we actually get to know ourselves more. We get to know where our flaws are. When we're talking to others and listening to others and their life experiences, and the more that we can learn about ourselves, the better we can manage our emotions and our behaviors and the things that allow us to create exactly what we want in this lifetime. And a big piece of that is connection. So just as important as I know people see the practice of going to the gym and working out, doing the same for our consciousness and our emotions and practicing how to manage them is just as important, if not more important, because our physical appearance and capabilities stem from our mindset and what we believe about ourselves and our emotions.
Like you had brought up the gym, or I mostly do yoga nowadays, or my meditation practice. A lot of times those are done in isolation, like when I meditate. It's about quieting my mind, and I'm not meditating for that moment in time. I'm meditating for when some sort of stress happens. My mind is a little bit more conditioned to deal with the racing thoughts or whatever. But what I really like about this space is that like you get to practice that, and it's kind of like doing that. And it's a little bit harder because it obviously takes other people, right? And not only that, I also like it because you're being put outside of your comfort zone, right? And so you have to be vulnerable with the stranger. And I don't see any way to really grow in isolation. We were designed in relation. In order to create anything, we need to do it in relation. And so our entire lives, if you really want to create the life that you want, you need to do it in relation, because the people who got you here aren't going to get you there, right? And so we're constantly on this path of just having these different connections. And if you look at any, like in the book Outliers, it talks about how, the Bill Gateses and the Steve Jobs of the world, like how did they get to where they were at? They didn't do it by themselves. They did it with a whole, a whole support system of people that got them to where they're at. And so when it looks, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so that takes connection, right? And it takes new connections if you're trying to go someplace new and what's possible, right? If we're just stuck in one place and don't know how to connect deeply, then a lot of times we can get stuck. I know I was in a 20-year toxic marriage, and it was because I was isolated in that marriage. I didn't know how to connect. I didn't know how to go out to people and get what I really wanted, and that was just love and connection. But I didn't know how to do it, so I really love this space. So how do you practice something like this? You can go to events and learn about them, right? But how do you put into something like this into practice, into your daily life?
There's a number of ways, and it really depends on the individual of what calls to them. But I'll just share, some examples of things that, we've shared with other people, and things that I do as well, as far as what we can do for connection. One of the things, very simply, is having vulnerable conversations with your friends or your family, sitting down and creating a space where you can talk about the things that you probably wouldn't share with most people. And what that practice does, it actually helps to release energy, because as human beings and this entire planet, what reality is made out of, like the desk that I'm looking at, this chair that I'm sitting on, me as a human being, we're all made of the same thing, which is energy. Protons, neutrons, electrons spinning around in space that make up our human bodies. And why I'm addressing this is because, going back to the example of sharing something that we may hold in our minds or in our thoughts and not share with other people, what that does is it creates a ball of energy inside of your body, and you want to think of it like a river, and that energy must flow in order for the river to be pristine and clean, right? But when water or energy gets trapped, it starts to rot, it starts to go the other direction. And not being healthy. So sharing one's thoughts allows us to release energy, allows energy to flow, especially those things that we keep inside of us that we don't tell others. that it's important to learn how to release energy through the act of either speaking it out to another individual. Speech is one of the most powerful ways to release energy, and then sitting down and journaling as well. It's another form of actually releasing energy, which is the power behind journaling that people don't really get, why they're doing it. It actually helps to just get stuff out of our consciousness so that we could bring new stuff in and we could actually be present with that. So in connection, those are just two simple things that an individual can do to connect with themselves and connect with other people. Another one is eye gazing. Eye gazing is a way to release oxytocin, another way to release oxytocin with another individual. And it helps to bring people into presence. And those are the things, again, that connection allows us to do, is become present with ourselves, to really understand like what's going on within us that's causing us maybe to continue in the cycles of addiction or things that don't serve us. So those are just a couple examples, and I could go on and on and on with them, because that's, there's many ways, and science has proven a lot of how these exercises and very simple activities work for us. Yet it's not something that's really out in the world as information anyone can access or knows about. So our job as the Evo Room is to bring this information to the surface so that people can see, like, you want connection in your life, you want more love, you want to create money, like being present and connection are some of the most important things that you must learn in order to create those things. And here are some of the tools that you can use so that you can bring that gym into your home, spirituality gym into your home, and do it there. You don't have to go to other places. The Evo Room is the place for you to experience it, so you can, once you have the experience of it and feel it, like viscerally feel, what it's like to do these exercises, then that's when inspiration to actually continue doing those things occurs. So that's what we serve as the purpose of the Evo Room, is to share these activities that people may have no clue about, make them aware of it, and then they could apply it to their lives if they so choose, or find other ways to accomplish that same thing.
When I was early on in recovery and going to 12-step meetings, I had to really learn how to be vulnerable and share some of the most painful things in my life. But what I really found out was that was a very powerful tool. And, it was kind of interesting because, the vulnerability allowed a release, but the people that were not receptive to my vulnerability, that gave me a clear warning sign of maybe who should not be in my life. And so really, there was no reason not to share those sorts of things. And so I love that. And I laugh about the eye gazing, because I've done a few of those exercises with strangers, but one of the things I do with my two youngest sons is I call it eye syncing, because what happens is your brain waves actually synchronize when two people are looking into each other's eyes. And so instead of necessarily doing a hug or kiss, I go, let's eye sync, boys. And it's literally like synchronizing your phone to your laptop or synchronizing your music. It's like you really get into sync, and it's a way for us to be present into each other's eyes. And so, man, those are some awesome tips, man. And man, those are right on. So I got one last question for you. So if there's one thing that you could do to square your recovery, like what would that one thing be?
Well, what comes to me is practice being present. What's the most powerful thing for me to practice that presence is, for me, it's being around others. It now, like, after doing the practices that I've done, I know when I'm not being present, and I know when I am being present, and it's reflected upon the person that I'm speaking to or with in that moment. You can see it very clearly, and that's why the Evo Room is what it is, which is the core of it is connection. So what's that one thing that I do is find ways to connect with other people, practice that connection with other people, and continue it. It's very important to be consistent in our practice, right? Whatever it is, whether it's shooting hoops or learning how to make food or whatever it may be, the more we do it, the more we get. The more likely we are to embody that which we desire to embody as individuals. So,
man, I really love that. I've loved all the talks that we've had in the past, and this one, it gives me chills hearing some of the things you say, and I'm right there to support you, man. I really appreciate everything you do, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. So how do people get a hold of you?
So evorooms.com EVOROOM.com is our website. We have a little sign up there where you can get all the information of what the Evo Room is doing, where our next experience is going to be at, and also there you can click on to our Facebook, our Instagram, and our social profiles. That's a great way to find out about us, to connect with us, and to see what we're doing in the world and how to get involved, and how to learn also some of these things that we're talking about now. We love to share them, and we know how important it is for people to have this information. So those are the ways that people can connect.
Hey, again, Jay, I really appreciate and value what you're doing. If there's anything I can do to support you, and I already know we're going to be doing some work in the future and helping each other get our messages out there and, making the world a better place. And, again, I really appreciate you, and thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a joy, and I love sharing this information. I love the work that you're doing and sharing this information as well, and helping people find themselves, really. And when people do, it's just so amazing to see what people can do when they really figure things out and really understand the power of what we're talking about now. So keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate it.
I wanted to thank you for listening. I'm so stoked to be able to offer this to you. I put together some powerful tools for our tribe and will help you transform and thrive in your recovery. Go to recoverysquared.com and sign up using the Get Access button. For a short time, I'm offering a free one-on-one coaching call with me. This will not last long. These sessions alone can be life-altering. In addition, I've developed an amazing infographic on how to remove limiting beliefs to catapult you to your next level. I can also grant you access to a secret Facebook group where you can build connections with our other tribe members. These are just some of the benefits of signing up at recoverysquared.com. Just click on the Get Access button on recoverysquared.com. I love you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.